Yeah, I know. I really dragged my feet on this one. Fantastic Four First Steps, which means I'm finally now caught up on the MCU. At least for now. It's perfectly fine. There is really not a thing wrong with it. There wasn't really anything exceptional about it either, though. It's good. Like, don't get me wrong. It is good. It really doesn't do anything wrong. I could nitpick at it if I wanted to. I could, bring up how, while I understand it is kind of core to his character, that he's a little bit of a womanizer. Well, these days I think is slightly the wrong word, but loves to jump into relationships. I still, find that aspect of Johnny to be one of the less interesting aspects. I could talk about how I don't like the flame effect. Specifically, I could bitch about the fact that I don't like how Ben's mouth moves, but that's also very typical for me and atypical of everybody else, because as I keep pointing out, everyone else focuses on eyes. My eyes are drawn to lips. Galactus looks good until he's fully lit, and then he's fine. But, honestly, none of that really matters. It doesn't. End of the day, it doesn't. None of that substantively affected my viewing experience. It's fine. The thing is, I think my experience of this was slightly hurt by the fact that there are 4 others that I've already seen. Because yes, I've seen the Roger Corman one too. And don't get me wrong, this is better than all 4 of them. However, there were some things that the previous ones, or very specifically the Fox ones, the ones directed by Tim Story, the early 2000s ones, there were some things that they did right, or at least did close enough that seeing them done either right again or slightly more right here, it's not a big enough leap. For example, I'd say one of the major things that those movies nailed was the overall family dynamic, especially when it came to Johnny and Ben. And that's also pretty much nailed here in a way that is not severely distinguishable from how it was there. The second one of those movies did The Silver Surfer. This is not substantively different. I mean, yes, they made the Silver Surfer a woman now, and actually gave her the name of the traditional Silver Surfer's lover from his planet before he left, which, interesting touch, means that technically Norin Rad might also exist. But anyways, functionally in terms of the Surfer's role in the story and how the effect looked, this is not a significant shift from what we had before. Is Galactus more comic accurate? Yes, but as a lurking threat, it's not that different from, the second one, at least in terms of conceptually. Yes, everyone bitches about the Cloud, but he's just a looming threat. That's just kind of what he does. Yes, this one, I don't really think you can call him more of a character. You can say he is, because he has a physical presence and has some lines, but what's his character? It's big looming threat. That's it. So the stuff that this does right, I think would have landed a lot better for me if I hadn't seen other things also do not all of this, but a fair amount of it right. This is the kind of, true to the comics, captures the mood, captures the look, not in a oh wow, that really blew me away sort of sense, but in a, oh yeah, that this gets it sense. That would land better if this was the first time we'd ever had the Fantastic Four on screen. Because I've seen a lot of it. And while, again, this is better, it's not as much better as I think I needed it to be to get really hyped about it. Now, I suspect anyone who is a bigger fan of the Fantastic Four comics than I am is probably really happy with this, and might also well be yelling at their screen going, what are you talking about? This got all this stuff right. Those other ones got all this stuff wrong. And okay, I understand if you are more invested in the Fantastic Four, that might be the case. I am familiar with the Fantastic Four. I appreciate the Fantastic Four. They can be done very well. I am not a mega fan. Have never been. So, like for me, it was just like, yep, fully competent. Nice job. I don't think I can even highlight a single moment that's like, oh yeah, that bit. Because like the other movie I found myself thinking of to compare it to is Doctor Strange, the first one. And that also largely is a case of it's competent. It lifts stuff off the page. It's a pretty solid recreation of the character and the kinds of adventures he has. Good job, unexceptional. Except that at least that had Dormammu I've come to bargain. It had that one thing that I was like, that was special. I don't have that here. And it can be unfair to sort of ding a movie for stuff that you feel like it didn't do as opposed to, assessing what it actually did, but I don't know what to tell you. The performances are all good. This is definitely by far the best version of Reed we've ever had. I'd say if anyone's going to be the standout, I think I'm going to pin it on Pedro Pascal. I think Reed is a shockingly difficult character to get right, either write correctly or perform correctly, because he is very in his head. He is very analytical to the point of it distancing him from other people sometimes. And that is a tricky needle to thread, and not have him just be a dick as a result of that. Because trust me, there's been plenty of times in the comics where he's just a dick. But that is a less interesting way to handle him. This does a pretty solid job of threading the needle. Johnny is fine. Johnny felt the most kind of thrown in. I appreciate that they gave him some things to do and like kind of made him a little bit of a scientist as well. Something of a scientist himself. That, other than just, be the hothead, the one who could do fire. I appreciate that, but at the same time, like he often felt superfluous to scenes, like he was just kind of there. And Ben is solid. Ben is a nice, warm presence, which he absolutely needs to be. Sue is the character who, honestly, up until this movie, along with Reed, Sue and Reed were the weak links in most of these movies. Reed's now been sorted. Sue kind of still is. And it's not that she's bad. It's not that there's, and again, overall thing with the movie, there isn't really anything wrong with it, but what is Sue's personality? What is her characterization? What would she do with her time if they weren't in the situation that they're in? I don't know. Because since literally the first scene we see her in is them finding out that she's pregnant with Reed's kid, everything that she does, every action she takes, every interaction she has is in relation to someone else, either Reed or Franklin. I don't know how to characterize her other than mother. And like she plays that well, and I understand that that's important and vital to her. And I'm not trying to imply that like being a mother is an invalid thing for a character to be or for a person to focus as a major part of their life. But like, who is she? What does she like? What does she want that isn't just being a mom? I don't really know. This is still probably the best Sue that we've had, but that's grading on a curve. This is the best Reed we've had by a lot, and they actually get him quite right with this. I'm not sure if it's the best Johnny and Ben we've had, but they're at least on par with the ones that we had in the early 2000s, because they were the two strongest ones in that. I will say here's one thing. And unfortunately, it doesn't like leave a big lasting impression, but here's the best compliment I can pay it. I really appreciate that they managed to pace and balance a movie really well that has as few action scenes as this has. Because for a ostensible superhero movie, they're not punching their problems. They're not getting into fights with stuff. A lot of that is in flashback and montage, finding out about, the Mole Man. I kind of liked what they did with that overall. That and other things that they've dealt with. But, Galactus by his nature is a problem you can't punch. And yeah, there's some action in it, but it is mostly about stalling for time and thinking of a better way to deal with the problem, which is a good way to handle the Fantastic Four. Like, I don't want to sound like I was overpraising those 2000 movies. Basically the Surfer solves their problem for them in the second one. And the first one, their big solution to deal with Dr. Doom is everybody hit him at the same time, pretty much, which is like, what is that? What are we even doing? Here, there is just a lot more of the science adventure approach to stuff. And I think the movie captures that well. But again, that's sort of an overall feel rather than like something I can really latch on to. But, between that and the retro future aesthetic that they went for, yeah, it is a solid piece of work. I have my little complaints and I said my bit about Sue, but like those are things that I would like them to have been better. But there isn't really anything all that wrong with what we've got. So yeah, not really much wrong with it. Also not really anything that is going to stick with me. I feel like this is going to move. This is going to be a movie that if I were to say, like, do a new ranking of the Marvel movies, I'm not planning to do that, for the record. But if I were, this is the kind of thing that I would forget to put on the list until I checked, all the movies that have been released and went, oh, right, that one. That's kind of where it's at. It wasn't an unpleasant watching experience. It was just a watching experience. It's fine. It's fine. It's kind of just fine, but it's fine. Fantastic Four, First Steps. What did you think about it? Whatever your thoughts are, drop something down in the comments. Let's talk about it. Patreon pays the bills and enables me to do this as my living, even if you can't help me out that way. Like, share, subscribe. Those all help. Don't worry too much about it, though. We take a relaxed attitude around here, so you just come on back next time you need a break. And now to thank my highest supporting patrons. Robin Moore, Jared Boyce, Subin Lutfulla, Auntie Kate 808, Mira G, Angry Casperol, Dave Hall, Oliver B, Mystic Shadow, Sean Miller, Welsh Wrestling Geeks, Melissa Pedersen, Becky Sparks, Ulrich, Twylord, Tracy Scrabbit, Palba, Rabajoggle, Sir Didymus is my favorite, and thanking some random folks from the lower tiers of my Patreon, Puck, Lady Sammy, and Eva Bright. Don't worry, the rats are fine. Just thought we'd kick the year off with Archie. What you think, bud? He's skeptical.